Today I'll show you how I made these 3 juggling knives for under $10 a piece. It's got a nice rubber handle. They're completely safe, although they look dangerous. Interested? Here we go. I've looked all over the internet. There's no real good example of how to make an inexpensive juggling knife with simple tools. I think I solved that problem here. Most juggling knives will cost you $30. For one, a set will run you anywhere from $80 to $100 or more. And I challenge it to be any better than this one right here. Materials I'll need for this build are rather simple. I got this at Harbor Freight. It's regularly $10. I used one of their coupons, got it for about $8. That's the major cost of the build. Then I got these chair tips for a couple of dollars. You get 4 of them. I need 3. These are 1-inch chair tips right there. And that's what you're going to put on the end here. So let me show you in greater detail how I made this thing. On my way to this final design, I explored a lot of different things. I had a regular knife where I cut down the edge. I thought about a machete because I could make a long handle out of it. It was long enough, but it was too narrow, and you can actually see where I've actually sketched some things out on here, trying to figure out how long to make the handle. And then I was working on another project, and I was using my double saw, and the things I liked about it was, first of all, it has a nice, relatively soft rubber handle, a really strong interface between the handle and the blade. I know a lot of commercial juggling knives have a problem right here. It's a 2-piece just like this. It'd be ideal to have it all the way down through, but then it's more complicated and it takes a lot more material. There's a balance issue. Look at that. It's wide enough, it's pretty long. This actually looks like a big butcher knife. So that's a nice little accent that I like in there. So that's how I came up from going from here to here. Let's talk about why this saw is such a better solution than a lot of the juggling knives out there. First of all, it's embedded inside the handle like this. It's designed to be pulled back and forth like this and to be banged on. So it's in there absolutely solid with that one nut and bolt. I'm going to overlay them on top of each other so you get a sense of how much I didn't remove. I was going to make a print for kind of a guide on this, but then I figured out it's just basically I followed the line of the small tooth on the bottom, whipped it up like here, and then just gave more of a traditional curve on the blade on top. You could use any pattern you want. You could actually go with more of a cleaver look. And then I was thinking, you know, maybe I'll just do this one at a time, but I think with a grinder or even a saw, you're going to be able to get away with doing 2 of these. And the great thing about tracing on the design is that you got a hole here and a hole here. You put some bolts in there to just keep it in place so nothing moves around, and I'll have 3 identical knives. So I'll see how that strategy works. So I've used the cheap masking tape and I've just put it over the blades that haven't been cut yet. And I'm just going to put this in place and then use a really thin marker, or in this case a gel pen, and just trace along here as best as I can to give the impression, and that will be my target to either cut with a hacksaw, but I'm going to use a grinder and make it go a little faster. After much trial and error, I did find that a 1/2 inch number 10 nut and bolt combination works perfectly in this smaller hole, but this bigger hole is real challenging. So all I did is just taped it on both sides. I lined the 2 blades up and take my gel pen and trace along there. And the great thing about the gel pen is it wipes off. If this wasn't thick enough for you, you could use a regular fine point marker, and that's what I did last time. I just used the tape and drew it out and cut it singularly, but you can see there is an outline there. I realized I just told you to go with the gel pen. Then I just said, you know what? Just want to make sure that it's real good. So I went over it with a red pen. You could use a blue pen, black pen, it really wouldn't matter. What I was worried about is getting too much of the stain on the tip of the blade, but if it's red, it looks more dangerous, like it's been through something, I guess. And I really think that's going to come off with a little Goo Gone. So hopefully we've got a really good outline here, and And I think we have. So tape that back over to hold that in place. Make sure those two holes are lined up. We know that these are lined up down here. Thought about this a little more. I thought the nut in the end would just get a little more problematic. So I've got it taped on this end. I've got it taped on this end. This is not going to be cut at all, so that's going to be solid. You don't need that nut. What was I thinking? The handle is good. The blade is good. It's got a nice shine to it. But this gray transition, it's probably all right. But I think I want to hit it up with some bright coat metallic finish to kind of make the transition more blade-like. So I've wrapped up the blade. I put a business card in there. And then I'm going to turn it upside down and spray paint it this way. Initially I was going to spray paint it from the top down. But my concern is that I can't get a good seal on that rubber handle. So we're going to give it a shot. If it doesn't turn out, then I guess you'll know, because I'll tell you. Another quick tip is I just took some wire. It doesn't matter really what gauge it is. It just has to be heavy enough so this hook stays bent. And I run it around the handle because I'm going to spray paint it like this. And I want to have it hang to dry because I just don't want to hold on to it. That prevents the wire from coming through the tape. Little hint, you can see this rubber handle, there's a tad bit of overspray, and I can rub that off, that's not too bad. But what I was finding is that the regular blue painter's tape wasn't sticking very well to the rubber, whereas the really cheap and expensive masking tape does a really good job. So I'm thinking going with the cheap stuff, because it sticks to the rubber much better and will prevent overspray. As you may or may not be able to tell, the weather's kind of iffy out here. I got about an hour to do the grinding and to do the spray painting of these handles, so I got to work fast. There's sirens, all sorts of crazy things going on. You're not going to hit it with a lot. Just touch it up a little bit like that. The plastic's already kind of rough, so I don't have to sand it to get the paint to adhere. It did a pretty good job on the last one, and I'm feeling pretty good about this. A little on the sides here. All right, do that for the other one. Maybe a second coat. Again, a real light coat, not too much at all. It's going to adhere fairly well. Pretty happy with that. I've got a cutter and I've got a shaper. Grinding is not something I take very lightly. I've got safety glasses on, I've got a shield, a breather, respirator, and big welding gloves. You're dealing with sparks flying around, and you want to be safe so that you can keep your vision, not have any kind of damage to your face or your hands or your arms. It's just one of those things that I probably learned when I was in test pilot school. Try to minimize the risk that you can so you can get the project done. I'm talking to you now because I don't know how easy it will be to show the grinding itself, but the approach I'm going to use here is just cut down the thinner teeth first, come through here, and then flip the blade over and do these chunks here. This is probably just going to be grinding off. This might be a little cutting. This will be a little cutting and then grinding. And then you don't want to get all the way to the line. You want to be able to shape that with a file or something like that to make sure that it's nice, flush, and safe. That's taken all this sharp nubs off. There's a little roughness on the other side. I'll file that down. Now I'm going to cut in here and cut in here. I think I'm going to start with the cutter, just cut in here, get a lot of the material away, maybe even that a little bit, and then just grind down. With my skill level, that's about as close as I can get, and it's kind of a funky curve, so it's not like I can really get the cutter in there very well. So I'm just going to grind it off the rest of the way. Now it's time to finish up with some old school filing. I have a half round, in just a flat file. I'm just going to go through here and finish it out. Gotta be careful, and even with a file, you don't want splinters, so I just kind of go this way, perpendicular to the project. Since you got two pieces in here, you want to keep the file as vertical as you can when you're doing this, so that you're not angling in one way or the other, either of the two pieces. Now on this one, you can use the flat edge because it's just one long blade. I feel like I'm making a real knife, not a fake knife. And I like the arc there. If you get close, most people aren't going to be able to tell that much difference between the blades. Well, that was a surprise. I was trying to figure out why it was so rough, even though I was filing across it on the other side blindly. I took this off and I realized, hey, I didn't go down all the way. But we'll grind this down just a little bit more with the grinder. Touch that up a little bit, maybe get a little better arc, just to finish the blades off. That's better too, and I was able to smooth it out here a little bit more than I was getting with the file. Got a medium grit sponge, and I'm just going over the edges to finish off the grinding and filing. Make it nice, smooth, and safe. As I was taking the tape off, I noticed that there was a little roughness that I have to finish up with a little touch up on the file, a couple strokes. And then I opened it up in the middle here, and a little more rough edge that I'm going to have to smooth down. A little bit of filing and sanding will take care of it pretty quickly. But these little shards, boy, you want to be careful of those. Make sure to get all sides just to be safe. Yeah, that's much better and safer, even though it's, say it with me, dangerous looking. Again, one of the strengths of this design is its flexibility and the fact that this blade is not going to break out of the handle. So we've put it in there, and all it is just take, screw on one side, and you've got the area here to put in the nylon nut, tighten it down. I'm thinking about putting a clear coat to kind of protect it, because you are going to have multiple blades running potentially into the sides of these things. And I would probably do a gloss. I'm liking the way that looks. Before and after. I really like that transition a lot better now that I've taken the gray out. I've also shortened up the handle. You can see this is the previous handle. This is the shortened handle. Trying to shift the weight. We put the blade on here and I juggled it. It's right around here, centered. Whereas here it's moved forward a little bit. But it may make all the difference in the world. I've marked this handle at 7/7/8 right there with a silver marker. You could use a pencil or a pen, whatever it is. Then using a hacksaw, I'm just going to cut the handle off right there. I want to be careful because right there seems to be a point where the structure is connected together. So let's cut the handle. So that's how much of the handle you cut off. You get right there at the structure. You can see I hit it at the same place. Now I'm going to cut back the rubber. The reason why is because if you can see, it's an oval cross section. And it's more than an inch this way, and it's right at an inch this way. So if I plan to use these 1 inch things, which is perfect, I'm going to have to trim the rubber off on both sides. So using just a straight cutter, I'm going to come in here and cut down carefully right along this line. Here and here, and do the same thing on the other side. You can see I'm making a little flap, and you can see how thick the rubber is. And I got the other flap on the other side. So I'm going to leave that flap there, and then I'm just going to cut from here to here and take that piece out. So I have room for the chair end to go in. Just like that. And then do it again for the other side. Alright, since I don't like those things sticking up, I'm just going to hit them with some electrical tape. Just enough to go around to kind of keep these things down. 1.5 revolutions. And then just cut that off. Like that. And then take the stopper and slide it on. If you're that worried about it, you could probably put a screw in there, but it seems to be holding very well. And then it helps give you something to stop on when you're juggling. Now do that 3 times. This has been a lot of fun to make this. If you're going to try this, you certainly have to do something like a juggling pin and get proficient at that before you jump on to juggling knives. Even though I've made this as safe as possible, I wear safety glasses when I juggle knives. You don't want to get poked in the eye. You don't want to get slashed with it. I wear at least sneakers. If you wear sandals and you get hit by that, that could cut you or certainly feel unpleasant. So start with this before you go to this. You know, this is a hard plastic handle. This is a nice soft handle. There's a lot of great things that I just happen to get on this design. And it's all relatively cheap. Thumbs up and comments, always appreciated. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for a future video where you'll see me juggling these knives. Coming soon.